In today's podcast, I'll look at the maritime song, A Ship in Distress, and two of its associated songs, The Silk Merchant's Daughter and Little Billy. I'll explore its background and printing history, sing versions of the song, and end on a full performance. You seamen bold that plough the ocean, see dangers landsmen never know. 'Twas not for honour nor promotion, no tongue can tell what they undergo. There's blusterous winds in the height of battle, where there is no back door to run away. But thundering cannons loudly rattle, mark well what happened the other day. There was a ship from divers places, long time been sailing along the sea. The weather being so uncertain, had drawn them to extremity. For want of food these poor souls are starving, for want of food they are feeble grown. Poor fellows, they are almost perished, reduced now but to skin and bone. The rats and mice, how they did eat them, their hunger far to ease we hear. And in the midst of all these trials, captain and men bore an equal share, until at last there came upon them a trial that was most cruelly. Poor fellows, they stood in a totter, casting of lots to see who should die. The tune and words were noted by Cecil Sharp in September 1905 from James Bishop of Priddy in Somerset. The song tells of a merchant ship adrift on the sea. Time has passed without rescue and food stores have become used up. The sailors agree that one of them must sacrifice himself to provide food for the crew. They draw lots, and the loser asks for a lookout to be sent to the topmast in order to check the sea whilst he prays. The lookout sees the vessel, signal rockets are fired, and soon the ship is replenished with stores and is towed into a safe harbour. There's very little information to determine just when the song originated, or whether it was based on a reported incident. The song had appeared in the Broadside Ballad Street Press in the early 1800s. There have been a number of reported incidents of cannibalism as a result of desperate circumstances. If we consider the conditions and comparatively crude vessels and navigation systems that were used for many centuries both by merchant and naval companies, it becomes apparent that the sailors would most probably encounter these sort of situations, especially when we consider that some ship owners had little thought for the men and would cut corners where possible. The act of cannibalism in desperate circumstances was not unknown, but the reports tended to be suppressed, and where a charge had been made, the court often sympathised with the sailors due to the life-threatening circumstances. There are other similar songs collected in Europe that may have been influential in the writing of A Ship in Distress. The songs most frequently quoted are the French song La Courte Parler, The Short Straw, and the Portuguese song Ano Cararineta. Both have themes of cannibalism under desperate circumstances. The storyline and endings differ quite noticeably from A Ship in Distress. The song was first collected from the English traditional singers in the early 1900s. George Butterworth collected 4 variations in Sussex in 1907, and Cecil Sharp collected a version in Somerset. There's one basic tune for A Ship in Distress. All the collected versions are variations of this one tune. The text usually follows the broadside text, but varies where the singer had learnt it from another singer. They mishear or forget phrases and lines, and substitute lines to fill the missing pieces. This is common practice and part of what we call the oral tradition. A version was collected from Jim Copper, of Rottingdean in Sussex. His version sang like this. The cats and dogs, how they did eat them, the hunger being so very severe. Captain and men in one position, captain and men went equal share. But still at last a hitch came on them, right speedily. Captain and men stood in a totter, casting out lots to know who should die. The lot it fell on one poor sailor, his family being so very great. Those very words did he grieve sorrow, those very words did he regret. I'm willing to die, my brothers messmates, if you to the topmast will haste away. Perhaps you might some sail discover, while I unto our dear Lord do pray. The lookout cried, he spied a vessel, a-sailing close within our sight. When a merchant ship there came a-sailing to their delight. May God protect all jolly sailors who boldly venture on the main, and keep them free from all such trials, never to hear their likes again. The English street ballad, The Silk Merchant's Daughter, also known as The Miser's Daughter, can be traced back to the late 1700s. It had a scenario very similar to A Ship in Distress. It starts off in the familiar story of a young woman dressing herself up as a sailor in order to find her true love. When the sailors are forced to abandon ship, the maid, in disguise, and her sailor true love are amongst the castaway crew. They are soon short of supplies, and lots are cast for a sacrifice to be killed in order that the rest can eat. The lot falls on the maiden. In the versions collected in the south of England by Cecil Sharp and Henry Hammond, the ballad was known as The Miser's Daughter, and generally follows the broadside version, though reduced in wordage. John Orde and Gavin Gregg collected versions in Scotland which retain the text of the original broadside ballad. The ballad seems to have been fading from the country singer's repertoire by the early 1900s. The words had changed from the original broadside. In some later versions, the scenario of being adrift in a boat and the possible cannibalism have been lost, and the scene of the young woman offering gold to free her true lover has been added. 25 of us sailors got into a boat, across the wide ocean away we did float. Provisions run short, grim death drawing nigh. The lots were passed around, see which of us should die. The lots were passed round, all in a black shoe, and each young sailor his lot out he drew. And among all the sailors the lots fell on she. She had to be slain, their provisions to be. The lots were passed round, all in a black shoe, to see which young sailor her butcher would be. And among all the sailors the lot fell on he, so she has to be slain by the young man her dear. The tune and words for this version were collected by John Orde in the 1890s from a farm servant in Aberdeenshire. It was printed in Orde's collection Bothy Songs and Ballads. The ballad was also sung in North America as The Silk Merchant's Daughter, and generally retains the cannibalism verses. The subject of desperate situations at sea and the murder and consumption of a crew member have been the subject of several broadside street ballads that have not survived beyond their time of publishing. Another song that circulated the clubs is Little Billy, which was written as a comic poem by William Makepeace Thackeray and published in 1885. The song is a parody of the French song The Short Straw. It circulated the Victorian middle-class smoking clubs as a recited comic poem, and sometimes sung to the French tune There Was a Little Boat, which is also a song about cannibalism at sea. Although it did not achieve a wide circulation among the country singers, it became popular among sailors. The tunes and text have been changed over time. A version was collected in Stan Hugel's Shanties of the Seven Seas. Annie Gilchrist collected a version in 1906 from Mrs. Ludlow. Unfortunately, they didn't record the tunes. The song gained a revival in the folk clubs, and a version was recorded in 1977 by Tony Engel from Bob Roberts, a bargeman who lived on the Isle of Wight. The wording had been changed, but his version sang like this. There were 3 men of Bristol City. There were 3 men of Bristol City. They stole a ship and went to sea. They stole a ship and went to sea. There was Gorging Jack and Guzzling Jimmy. There was Gorging Jack and Guzzling Jimmy. There was also little boy Billy. There was also little boy Billy. But when they reached the broad Atlantic, they'd nothing left but one split pea. They'd nothing left but one split pea. Says Gorging Jack to Guzzling Jimmy. Says Gorging Jack to Guzzling Jimmy. We've nothing to eat, so I'm gonna eat thee. We've nothing to eat, so I'm gonna eat thee. Says Guzzling Jimmy, I'm the old and toughest. Says Guzzling Jimmy, I'm old and toughest. So let us eat, little boy Billy. So let us eat, little boy Billy. Oh, little boy Billy, we're gonna kill and eat you. Oh, little boy Billy, we're gonna kill and eat you. So undo the top button of your little chamois. So undo the top button of your little chamois. A Ship in Distress is a fine song for singing. I'll end the podcast with a version collected from George Butterworth in July 1906 from Mr. Harwood of Pulborough in Sussex. You seamen bold who plough the ocean, see dangers landsmen never know. 'Tis not for honour nor promotion, no tongue can tell what you undergo. There's blusterous winds and raging seas. Now mark you well what I do say. In the midst of battle, when cannons rattle, there's no back door to run away. A ship there was from divers places, came drifting down upon the sea. Her steering tackle, it was broken, it drew her into extremity. Nothing was left those poor souls to cherish, for want of food they have feeble grown. Poor fellows, they will surely perish, they're wasted now to skin and bone. The rats and mice, how they did eat them, their hunger to appease we hear. And in the midst of all their trials, captain and men had equal share. At last there came askant upon them a dismal tale most certainly. Poor fellows, they stood in a totter, casting of lots to see who should die. The lot it fell on one young fellow who had a wife at home on shore. But to think of eating our fellow shipmate 'Twas that grieved us 10 times more. I'm free to die, messmates, brothers, let someone up to the topmast stay, to see what there he might discover, while I unto the Lord do pray. The lookout cried, he spied a vessel about a league from us or more. Some signals of distress were fired, and soon for us away she bore. And so we got provisions plenty, that saved us from such deadly fear. To see such pity they took upon us, you could not help but shed a tear. And now we're safe in old England, and far from all such deadly fear. We'll drink unto our wives and sweethearts, and all of those we love so dear. May God protect all jolly sailors, and all that plough the raging main. May they never more see such trials, and never know the like again.